Hello, Intuitive Art friends. So good to be with you today. I'm Rachel Archelaus, founder of the Intuitive Art Academy, and I am here with Carrie Roldan, our everything leadership BFF, team BFF, certification coach. She's awesome.
Thanks. I feel awesome.
She's looking very fit today, too.
I got a little tan going on, so I will embrace it.
Excellent. So today we are talking about how your past does not determine your future. It doesn't limit you in any way, and it could be completely separate from your next step. And I am really inspired this week by the Olympics. I love how there are people out there, my boyfriend included, that they just always know what they want to do and they go forward on one singular path and they get it done. You know, he's not an Olympian, but he is one of the best software engineers in his field and gets all this recognition. But he knew from the time that he saw his first computer, that is what I want to do. And these Olympians at some point decide to commit to that path and all the practice and all the missing of the regular social life stuff. And it's really incredible what you can accomplish when you do that. But it's also really incredible what you can accomplish if you decide to just see what's out there, to live your life. Maybe you don't have huge expectations for yourself. Maybe you don't know what you want to do. But even at that, there are lots of people who then kind of stumble their way into outrageous success, amazing, fulfilling careers in all fields. And we're going to talk about that and whatever else comes up because I love how these conversations evolve. And if you guys have questions, put them in the chat. I already see Corinne and Guillaume. Hello, everybody. Good to have you here.
Yeah. And hey, I just opened the chat too. So hello, Corinne. Hello, Guillaume. Hello, everybody watching. And I'm going to be a little bit like oppositional with you today, Rachel. I'm going to play devil's advocate and I'm going to do that whole like reality thing, my air quote reality, because your past, right? This is our thing. Your past doesn't determine your future. And yet there are some things that happen in your past that definitely affect your future, right? If you had both of your legs amputated in the past, that is determining, right? That changes the way that your future looks. So that is number one. I kind of want to talk about that with you. But number two, I'm thinking about how many of us have been, like how many of us the light bulb just went on. I know there's someone in my life who she tells a story that is, this happened to me when I was little. And so because this happened, I will always be like this, right? Like someone did this to me when I was little. And so now I am going to feel badly about this. I don't want to say who it is because in case they're watching, I don't want to tell their story, but I will say, I'll use like a example. I was thrown off a horse when I was little. And so now I will forever be terrified of horses and will never be able to ride because that happened to me, right? How many of us just realized, oh crap, I'm telling a story similar to that, right? Just because I was thrown off a horse doesn't actually mean, sure, maybe it's a logical reason for my fear, but it doesn't have to determine my future with horses, that I'll always be afraid of them. So that's where I am, Rachel. I like hear it. I hear it in the horse story, but I'm like, what about the amputation story?
I mean, I think this is a great example of what you just said with the horse too. Like, okay, your legs are no longer there. You're not going to go forward in the same way, but there are ways that you can experience having legs, even if they're not your own with prosthetics. There's still a lot of ways to achieve in sports if that's what they were doing. There's the Paralympics. There are so many amazing leagues and tournaments, and like you can still live your life. It might be different than what you imagine, which is kind of where we're going to. But just because something happened to you doesn't mean you're limited in your future. Now, of course, in that specific sense, you're not going to be able to sew your own legs back on. This is kind of getting weird now, but you know what I mean? You can still have a similar experience, even if it's different.
Yeah, and that is where, right? We are so inspired. I don't know. I've heard that it's more women than men that watch like the stories of the Olympics. So, sidebar here, as I tell you that my husband put a giant television in our backyard, like this massive outdoor TV thing is happening. And we're both really excited to like watch the Olympics on the outdoor TV. Only so far, I've been a little bit disappointed because he likes to like watch the Olympics, but have music on. And I'm like, no, that takes all of it for me. Like he's like watching the games or the matches or the competition. And I'm like, yeah, no, I need the stories. Like I need to know, I need the human aspect of this, or watching the Olympics sucks for me. So, anyways, but that is so much of what we love about the Olympics, and especially the Paralympics, right? When we hear, you know, they were training to be whatever, and then they lost their leg and it didn't stop them. Their dream changed. Their dream changed, but they're still accomplishing, they're still living that, right? The way they thought their future was going to look changed. But look, they're still here. They're Olympians. They're achieving. They're doing, right? Like it's actually beyond what they thought. And that, man, you guys, that is a future. The whole idea of talk about future is kind of funny anyways, because is there really a past, a present, and a future? I mean, what is time? Like we could go there, right? But assuming that we are in this linear, we're looking at time in a linear way. The future is just infinite possibility. It's just infinite possibility. And the past, oh, my God, sorry. The past, it's already gone. Like it's non-existent. It's so interesting how often, and I'm just completely guilty of it, where it shows up for me is I project what I think will happen based on, like with, I always bring up my husband in these conversations, but he's such an easy target. Like, right? Like I will do it like based on the way he reacted the last time something like this happened. I am going to make an assumption about the way that he's going to react or respond today, right? And as children, we did this, right? Based on the last time I did something like this, my parents responded this way. So, oh crud. I'm like, we start making stories about what we think the future is going to be. I'm going to have to react differently, or oh no, or what. But the truth is, the future responds to how we're being in the now. The future looks like however we decide to feel about it in this moment. And that sort of goes back to the amputee story, right? Future looks like however I choose to respond to it in this moment.
Yeah, I love that you're bringing up expectation, because that's really, why does our future usually look like our past? It's because we're expecting it to. It's not because it has to. And I just want to rattle off a couple of cool examples of people who have that openness about the future, right? Like, you know, I'm writing another pilot right now, and I'm having the expectation that I can be one of those people who is an unknown screenwriter but gets their first project greenlit. I want them all to be greenlit at the same time, you know, like I'm ready to go. I've got a couple now, and I'm just really excited about it. And I know that I don't have to follow anyone else's path, right? It can be really easy for me. And I know that also it can be really easy to say no to opportunity because we don't think we can do it. Like I was watching this show last night, The Movies That Made Us on Netflix, and The Nightmare Before Christmas, the stop motion film, was on. They were talking about that. And the person who did the score, Danny Elfman, who was in Oingo Boingo, they were asking him to do the score, and he was like, no, I don't do that. No, I've never done that. No, I can't do that. They asked him so many times, he finally said, okay. And now that's what he's been doing for the last 30 years and is like a huge, huge person in the field. And he was saying it in the interview, like, this is my life now. And thank God I said yes to that. And I know personally, I'm asking people to do things and being really sure internally, not from my ego wanting them to do it, but just so sure that they were the right person for it and having to say that, like, no, you're the person, you're the person, you're the person. And then it's become super fulfilling, or like started a new career for them, or just done amazing things. And I love how sometimes we can have the expectation ahead of time, right? And sometimes we kind of need to be um, coerced into letting our resistance down, letting our limitations down of, oh no, that's not for me, I can't do that, to finally say yes to the opportunity. That is the huge thing.
I feel like I love what you're saying. I love the Danny Elfman story. My husband's like a huge Nightmare Before Christmas fan and Oingo Boingo and all things Danny Elfman like fan. So I am aware of that story. But I love that you used him as an example because he had success where he was, right? And yet, okay, I don't know the whole story, but I'm guessing he wouldn't still be riding high on Oingo Boingo success at his age now, right? And that takes me sort of to like, there's a lot of dialogues in my head right now, but where it wants to go is what got you here isn't necessarily what's going to get you there, right? The way of thinking that got you where you are is probably not going to be the same thinking that is going to take you to whatever you perceive your next level to be. And maybe Danny Elfman didn't think about being someone who was writing musical scores for Hollywood for the rest of his life. But my guess is his life now looks and feels the way that he always hoped his successful career in music would look and feel, right? That it would be longevity, that it would be filled with creativity, that it would challenge him and inspire him. And probably when he was on the road with Oingo Boingo, he was also thinking about like ways to be musically relevant and not have to be on the road all the time. And the thing is, he couldn't see what this future looked like, but his heart knew what it felt like. And I'm projecting all of this onto him. But the other thing that I wanted to say is about our past. It doesn't always look like what we think it looks like, if that makes sense. Like we are viewing our past through our very specific lens. And, you know, with Danny Elfman, for him as an example, he was saying, I don't do that. I don't know how to do that. I'm not right. And I'm guessing the cajoling had to do with, but don't you? Isn't that really what you're kind of doing already? And don't you have like a lot of reframing, looking at his past, what got him there, just looking at it through a different lens until he was able to be like, oh, I do have that skill set. Oh, I do have that. I actually am really inspired by that, right? Just looking at the past differently. And I think that's what so many of us honestly don't do. We take our story of our past as truth without ever like looking back at it through a different lens. And I think about how often this happens as people are growing, like the stories of what happened with them and their parents, right? They could only see it through the lens of their 12-year-old self. And we don't often have the habit of going back to like think about those, that we just accept them as that's how it went. But if you get the chance, if it ever comes up where you get to revisit a moment from your past, ooh, sorry, I accidentally placed a call. If you look at your past, like through your adult lens, you can have total epiphanies. You can have like spontaneous healing, like all of it when you just recognize, oh, the story of my past isn't the whole truth. You know, when you can look at it through a different lens, so much can open up, right? And if we've been letting that 12-year-old story of our past determine what we predict our future, that's a bummer. Our expectations of the future. That's a bummer. We just got a really long comment, so let's take a look at it.
Okay, let's see. Just curious, do you notice yourselves taking those steps into new territory after prompting from others? Or are you in the habit of prompting yourself and pushing through without encouragement? I will speak first. I've pretty much always been very self-directed, almost to the point where I was kicking and screaming, but like my body was doing it anyway. You know what I mean? Like I've always been really good at listening and kind of just going with the opportunity. Like for example, when I was releasing my intuitive art book, um, I was going into it thinking I'm gonna do this quickly. I'm gonna get it out on Amazon. I'm gonna self-publish it and just do it, do it the fast way. That when you think of self-publishing, that's how I was gonna do it. But there was just something in me that was like, go slow, go slow, go slow. And I didn't really know why. I didn't really know what I was doing. But then I was like, oh, right, I can make a press release and I can make a galley and I can send it to review to these, big industry publications. And I just kind of figured out one step at a time. Oh yeah, this is what I can do, and this is what I can do, and this is what I can do. And that took me on a much bigger train of publishing than I was anticipating for my book. And it's, like it got mainstream attention from a lot of different places. It was in libraries and bookstores, and I went on a book tour and I got asked to be in Laura Hollick's Soul Art Day in Canada. And like it just kind of ballooned. And if I had pushed that away, then I don't know if any of that would have happened because not as many people would have known about my book. And there are lots of other places that I can say that, especially in this screenwriting thing right now. I wasn't going to write my own stuff. I was just going to sell my ideas, but I'm a writer. So I learned how to write, and I thought I was cowarding out. I thought I was like not just wanting to go and pitch it and do the right thing, but going slow sometimes can yield more fulfilling results in certain circumstances. So I think I'm very self-directed and I don't care what other people think of what I have to do, probably because I'm usually doing something like riskier than most of the people around me would tolerate. In fact, I was going to make a video about this for my other YouTube channel where don't listen to other people. Other people don't know you. When I was in high school and having an incredibly difficult time, I decided to drop out and just get my GED and then go to college. But no one saw that plan. No one had faith in my plan. And I remember having dinner at my grandpa's house one night, and he shoved his fist down and he called me stupid. And I was like so upset about that because I didn't have that kind of family. Like we weren't ever yellers. And then now I was just visiting with him, and he was like, I'm so proud of you. You've accomplished so much. You have no idea how inspiring it is. And I'm like, so people will catch up to you. Don't listen if anyone else is not encouraging you, which is kind of what I'm getting from the second part of your question. Like, if you have that belief or even that subtle, tiny little voice of a knowing of what you want to do that. That is more than enough belief in yourself that you need. Okay, I'm going to shut up now.
Well, I love that you use that example. And of course, I just hear the first part of the question and like go running with it. And so I was like, the first part of the question, do you notice yourself taking those steps into new territory after prompting from others? So it was based on the conversation about looking at our past differently. And the prompting from others, even Rachel's prompting from others, it came from her higher self, right? It came from intuition. It was a prompting. It just wasn't a person like in her world saying, hey, Rachel, have you ever thought of it this way? So one, I tend to attract people. I think I've shared this on this channel, but most of my best friends are like either psychics or therapists. So I tend to attract those people, but they're great for me, right? Because they do cause me to reflect. They ask good questions. So I have those people in my life already. And it tends to be the kinds of things that I'm reading, or, right? Like, there is something innate in me, and probably you, because you're here watching this, that wants to grow, that sees like evolving and becoming as part of our purpose. And so I get the promptings, whether they're in a book or I just happen to watch an amazing Oprah episode, or, right, like, they come and it I take, when I get prompted, however I get prompted, I do take the time to look at things, right? So it's a both. It's both. Our world will prompt us, and I do it on my own as well, in terms of, like, I am less like Rachel, where I'm like, Rachel will just be like, oh yeah, I had this epiphany, or, maybe I'm only hearing part of it, or like, I came to realize, like, I thought about it differently. And I tend to get to those places because I was journaling on it, and then I realized, right, like, there's a little bit more maybe action involved on my side of things. But the second part of your question said, are you in the habit of prompting yourself? Yes, I'm in the habit of prompting myself, but that comes with practice. That comes from reading all those books and watching all those Oprah episodes and caring about growth, right? But then you said pushing through without encouragement. And so I don't think either of us are in the habit of pushing through. I think we've gotten pretty good at finding our path of least resistance, but we still move forward. Even Rachel, she kept getting the prompting, go slow, right? Go slowly. And she's learned to trust that. I have had, so at the beginning of my business, there were some very loud voices in my life from people who loved me and cared about me, who were like, you're too smart and too qualified to be doing what you're doing now. Like, are you serious right now? You want to, at the beginning of my life of entrepreneurhood, I did network marketing, and people were continually telling me, like, no one succeeds at that. It's a scam. Why would you do that? And while I didn't wind up staying with the company that I was with, I still get paid from that company to this day. And it was the right step for me. It was absolutely what I needed to know. It was what I needed to do. It was where I was supposed to be right then. And it was that until it wasn't. And then the next thing presented itself, and it was super clear, like, oh, okay, this is going back to, does your past determine your future, and all of that. Like, I mean, my past, guys, if I let my past determine my future, I would probably be like a university professor right now, or I would be in high school administration, or I would be doing something that seemed like the right path that wasn't quite the right fit. Like, what I'm doing now feels every day more and more like how I wanted to feel when I was a little kid, right? Like how I imagined my life when I was a little kid, and I thought I was going to own McDonald's. That's what I thought when I was a little kid. But I think I've lost track of the question, because I'm like leaning into how I feel right now. But I just want to say, like, prompting can come from wherever it comes, internal or external. It's about how we approach our lives, and are we asking ourselves new questions. You guys are all watching this. You're here because you do feel called to become something more, something bigger, something more free, something more relaxed. Like, you come to these conversations because you want to feel a certain way, and you know that it's possible to feel a certain way. And that is what we need to pay attention to. Not like, I can't tell you how many times people have told me, I wish I could be like you, Carrie. I'm just not like that. I care what other people think. I'm just not like that. I blah, 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 blah. And it's like, well, I wasn't like this either. Like, there's a choosing involved. And man, I mean, Rachel's, if you think about, like, you had a past that was full of some scary crap, like some unfun stuff. If you continued to let that be your story, your future would not look like it looks now. Your present would not look the way that it looks now, right? You would be perpetually in the same cycle over and over and over and over. So yeah, growth is important to me, and that's why my future doesn't have to look like my past.
Yeah. And this brings me to something I always want to tell people. I don't care who it is. On the whole, people don't know what they're doing. Everyone's making it up. Everyone's, even the biggest, highest paid CEOs at companies, they're getting paid because no one knows how to do their job. They need to make it up, right? Like, I've been watching that Movies That Made Us show. There are the biggest movies that have ever been made were made with first-time producers, first-time directors, first-time writers who just, I don't know how to do this. And it all just ends up coming together. Why? Because that's what we're capable of. That's why we're here. We're creator beings who are bigger than just this, right? We have higher selves. We have connection to source. We have connection to all. We can hear what everyone's dying for, what they're looking for, what they're wanting. And if there's a part of us that's resonating with that, we're going to be put together. We're going to be put together, even if we don't know how, because we don't know how, because we don't even have that specific desire, because then there won't be any specific resistance. So I just love reminding you that, you'll figure it out. You'll figure it out. When I started YouTube, I knew, okay, I'm not going to be very good at this because I've never done it before. But if I keep doing it, I think it's going to be fun. And I think it's going to be a really cool way to express myself. And I got I get hundreds of opt-ins per month from my YouTube channel. And it's still relatively small. So, give yourself some slack. Keep your eyes on yourself. Don't look around for validation. Even if you have it, even if it's great, try to cultivate your own inner barometer of, oh, this is working and this isn't working. Because even if you're not getting a lot of outside traction yet, it doesn't mean you're not on the best path for you. You've got to know if it's tickling you, if it's bringing you forward with curiosity, if it feels like relief, if it feels in any way exciting, that is the way to go.
Yes. And that leads me to Guillaume's comment. And Guillaume, I want to give you some tough love now, because it says, I know for a fact that being in a job is not for me. I realize it sucks the life out of you. So I'm going to call BS. You do not know if a job sucks the life out of me, right? So what you're saying is your current job feels like it's sucking the life out of you. You said being in a job is not for me. And because I kind of know a little of your story, Guillaume, I want to say, what if I offered you a job? And the job was, I'm going to pay you 10,000 American dollars a month to spend time in your creativity. Would a job be for you? Right? So part of what's happening here is this focus on what I don't want, and the focus on, I'm sure, I don't know your whole story, Guillaume, but I'm sure there's a story behind that about why jobs are awful and why jobs aren't for me and why jobs are soul sucking and suck the life out of you, right? We, as a society, we have a lot of story around that. So not judgment for the story, just this is a moment where you get to look at your story around being in a job and then choose. Oh, Guillaume says he'll take that job. he'll take the job I offered him, right? But this is a moment where we get to recognize, this is how I've looked at being in a job in the past. And I have an expectation that this is what jobs look like in the future. And the whole point of this thing is to recognize your past doesn't have to look like your future. So what if you could stay in a job, but it looked and felt really different? Would you stay in it, right? That was the whole point of my offer. And no, I'm sorry, it wasn't a real offer, Guillaume. It was a hypothetical offer.
Well, this is really good. So let's talk about how can you set yourself up for this, stumbling into success, or someone prompting you with an opportunity, someone coming to you and saying, hey, I've got this really amazing thing going on right now. It sounds like it would be right up your alley. What do you say? Now, the basic one is, where are you vibrating, right? Where is your mood generally? Where are you when people come to you with things? Because that's going to really have a part in how you perceive that opportunity and if you're able to accept it. So, I had a friend, I'm going to call her out. I was leaving Connecticut, but I had this really successful psychic development course. And it was always sold out every time that I did it, and we did it quarterly. And so I was leaving Connecticut, but I didn't want to have to just shut down that course. It was going really well. And I thought one of my clients and students would be excellent at teaching it. She was professional. She was incredibly intuitive and in touch, like was already doing some speaking. And so I thought, yes, you can absolutely do this. She'd been a private client for years and was totally knew everything that I taught. And she was absolutely terrified because she didn't see herself in that way. She didn't think she was capable of doing that. So she said no for months until finally I just set it all up and I put her name on it. And I was like, this is the schedule. And she finally, she showed up and she had an amazing time. She loved it and they loved her and she got private clients out of it. And it was just so great. And she loved it. And it was just like kind of life-changing for her. But if you have a story of that's not me, then you're probably going to be more resistant to an opportunity that does come right from your vortex. It comes right from everything you've ever asked for, right? But your higher self's knocking and sending the physical in to be the opportunity and the bridge to what you're looking for, but you can't see it that way. You're like, no, 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 no. So if you are focused on a negative thing, if you are focused on the thing that's depressing you or sucking the life out of you, or if you have a story of I come from this and I could never be that, that is going to make it really hard for you to see when those opportunities are coming. You're not going to see them as opportunity. You're going to see them as something else. So where are you vibrating? Put yourself in the best place possible to be able to see those opportunities when they come, because they're already there. You just got to be able to match them a little bit more vibrationally for them to like come into your field.
I love that. I love that so much because I think we hear stories a lot like of Hollywood starlets discovered on park benches or on people who were, like they were in the right place at the right time and suddenly all their dreams came true, right? Like we hear those stories and
that's what happened to Lady Gaga.
Oh, wait, tell me. I don't know that story.
So she was already performing in clubs downtown as Lady Gaga, but she was actually in a store just singing in a store, and the cash register girl heard her, and her father was this big producer and set her up with that.
Okay. And she wasn't just sitting around telling the story of I haven't been successful yet, so I'm never going to be successful. Like, where was she vibrating? She was in a store, in her joy, doing her thing. Oh, I'm yawning again. Oh, and that is the thing. If we are in a place of not vibrating in the place where we want to go, we will see an opportunity as, like, I'm thinking about this person who you offered the class. Something terrifying, something they're not ready for, an opportunity to fail or look like an idiot, or like, like it seems like an opportunity, but we will view it through the lens of, I'm not ready for that, or I could never do that, right?
Or it's a scam, or it'll never work out, or what's the point? Mm-hmm.
Or it sounds too good to be true. Oh, okay. Tangent. people always say if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. And I'm like, no. If it sounds too good to be true, that's awesome. Like, I suppose there's a difference between um if it sounds too good to be true, meaning like you're already feeling like something's not right here, like it smells a little fishy, then sure, trust the thing that says it smells a little fishy. But if it feels amazing, don't let somebody else tell you, oh, my cousin got scammed by one of those. Oh, I had an aunt who tried that and she failed. Oh, right? Because the answer is in you. It's in you. I forgot. I went on a weird tangent. I forgot where I was going, but yeah. Oh,
Okay, so how else can you be in the best possible place to be discovered or to stumble into your amazing success? Follow your curiosity. Or your intuition. So, perfect example. For some reason, for months now, maybe even years, I've had this idea for a puppet show on my YouTube channel. I was talking about it with Carrie a couple of months ago, like I think in our BFF meeting. Puppet show. I have the supplies. I bought some stuff. I've got, I'm all set up. I could do it. I know how to make a puppet, and I think I know maybe what the topics will be, but I just haven't really gotten myself there yet. But I'm going with it. And then today we had a intuitive art practice hour, and we were talking about this, and like with intuitive art, you can see what will turn out. Like, what happens if I do this? So I thought, what happens if I go forward with these puppet shows? And I got this beautiful red heart, which for me is love in action, because this is my action color. So love in action. But I also had a flash of intuition when I wrote down the question, and I saw these little puppet shows inside of my comedy show, my comedy pilot. It's not a it's a like a sitcom. I'm writing a sitcom right now. But I saw these little puppet shows inside of my sitcom show, and I thought, "Oh, that makes it so cool and unique." And I love that. And if I weren't willing to keep bringing this up and visiting it and being curious about this, I wouldn't have any of this clarity whatsoever. It would be so easy for me to be like, puppet show, I don't know how to do that. I mean, I've made a puppet, but I've never done a show. I don't know. You know what I mean? It'd be so easy for me to just let it go, but I keep bringing it up because it keeps popping up, and investigating it is showing me how valuable this really could be. And you guys know, love is like what I'm all about this year. I keep bringing it up in my meditations and aligning to it as much as I can, and to see that simple answer, like it so completely resonates with where I'm at. That's why it keeps coming back to me, because I'm resonating with it. And who knows, maybe that is the reason that a producer will decide to take on my project.
well, I love it because when you started talking puppet show, I was like, and I remember it, but when you brought it up today, I was like, oh, and it's funny. It's funny. So I love that it's part of your comedy pilot. And another way, besides your curiosity, which I think curiosity is where it's natural to follow your curiosity and be open. For me, one of the best ways to be ready for opportunities when they show up is to get into the place of knowing. So I can relax. So for me, it's about believing what I believe and remembering it's all working out, like a little bit of self-soothing, because I think about, like, I've got some ideas about things that I would like to happen in my life, right? And I've had these same ideas for years. But the truth is, if someone had introduced me to Oprah or Joanna Gaines 5 years ago, I would have felt terrified. I would have missed that opportunity or stumbled. Like, it obviously no one introduced me back then because I wasn't aligned. I never bumped into him in the grocery store. I never accidentally ran past Oprah. You know what I mean? Like, it didn't happen because I felt a chasm of divide between where I was and what I wanted. But guess what I've been doing over these past several years, right? Closing that divide purely by focusing on my vibration, by focusing on what I feel, by relaxing into the truth of me, which, by the way, is what we do at the Aligned Up level. And I know we have another one coming up in the relatively near future, and I am so ready and so excited for it. So I'm sure Rachel will be giving you information, but come to the Aligned Up level. But here's the truth is now I live in joyful expectation of when I get this introduction. Like I don't, quite frankly, like Rachel just told me a story because I am in love with Joanna Gaines. She just told me a story of someone, like how Joanna Gaines found them and decided to offer them a show. Like they didn't even have to pitch or do anything. And like that is sort of what I'm looking for in this next phase of creativity and impact in my life, is knowing like I'm living it. I'm living it right now. I'm doing the things I'm meant to be doing. I'm living in my joy. I'm following my alignment. Those are the things that I'm doing. I'm living in the knowing. I am becoming the fullest expression of myself. And guess what? My dreams get to come true. And because I'm focusing on living in the fullest expression of myself and not where I'm going to run into Joanna Gaines and what I'm going to pitch her, I know that whether it's Joanna Gaines or someone else entirely or Oprah or like whoever it is, right? When the moment, there's actually been several already, but I'll spare you those. But when the moment shows up, right? It won't be that like, I don't know, I'm not qualified, I've never done anything like that before. It will be, I don't know, I've never done any, I do know, I know, I've never done anything like that before, and that sounds exciting, and I'm super curious about it, and I have great ideas. I think I'm gonna put a puppet show in the middle of it, right? That kind of thing. And that comes from living in a place of knowing. It's all working out. Everything that I've asked for is coming to me. My future doesn't have to look like my past because I'm not the same person I was 10 minutes ago.
Yes, and this is another point that I wanted to make, and you so beautifully illustrated it. It's be ready. If there is something you know you want, like Guillaume, I know Guillaume wants to be a really successful writer, and he's already written books, so he's ready. He's ready for more. He's ready. And for Carrie, she's already doing the thing that she wants to get discovered for. She's ready. I'm already writing my projects and learning more about screenwriting. I'm ready. And so my friend Lana used to say, whenever I want to move, I start packing, right? She's getting ready. So I know Abraham says, ready to be ready, to be ready, to be ready. And it's really like, okay, you know what you want. So what can I do right now? What can I do right now? What is accessible to me right now that feels good? It's not about making the list for everything you have to do and then getting burnt out before you start. It's not about doing what other people think you should do. Like if you say you have an idea to your spouse or your kids or your parents and they're like, oh, well, you got to do this. It's not about doing that. It's just about what is my accessible step right now that I'm excited to do? What do I want to do right now? And I really love the Abraham Hicks quote about be satisfied with where you are and eager for more. So key, because satisfaction keeps us open to receiving opportunity, and the eager for more is that excitement that can pull us forward. So yeah.
And you can be both. I think that is, right, that's one of the lies that are told to us, right? Is like, be satisfied. Don't want more. And it's like, that's not what satisfaction is. Like, be satisfied, be relaxed, be content, be in appreciation and eager for more. Know that like the more I appreciate, the more I get to appreciate. You said something about don't let other people tell you, you just triggered me when you were talking. And I just want to say, like, that's when you know there's someone in my sphere right now that, like, anytime you say anything amazing, like, oh, you know what I would really want, or, you know, it would be amazing, or, you know what, like, right, that's what I do. Like, I'm a verbal processor. So I am in the, like, oh, you know, it would be even better. You know, it would be so cool. And they instantly be like, Well, the problem with that is, and I'm like, that right there, that's why your life looks the way that it looks, and mine looks the way that mine looks, right? Is because like it is okay to not have all the answers. It's okay to not have, I know that was the mistake that I made for the longest time is I know what I want my future to look like and I don't know how to get there. And so I would try to figure out the how, and then that Guillaume would suck the joy out of me. Trying to figure out the how to get from where I am now. Like back then was like, I was a mom of like very young children and toddlers wanting to make the impact that I was meant to make on the world and wanting to figure it all out like within a month, right? And so I was like, how do I get from where I am now to the upper echelon of influencers? In fact, I remember watching an episode of Oprah that had like, oh God, my middle age is showing. I can't remember anybody's names. The woman from B School,
Marie Forleo.
Marie Forleo, the Gabby
Bernstein. Mm-hmm.
Bernstein, and the guy, the blogger guy who now does, I can't think of his name, but he had a blog. It was The Daily Love. They were on and they were like these 30 something influencers, like, and I remember being like, I just want to be them like tomorrow, you know, like, and it felt like so far away. But I tell you what, doing everything that Rachel and I have been talking about, getting ready to be ready to be ready, like I was not ready and I had no patience for my not readiness. And so the story I was telling myself was, well, you'll never get there, or you're a failure, or that doesn't happen to people like you. And there were people in my life saying that, right? All the time. Okay, I'm sorry. I am all over the place today, but I just got to tell you that something is being triggered about other people in your life and the stories they tell themselves. Just don't let them be your stories. Like there are people in my life who say things like that, like, oh, well, that would be amazing, but that's really hard. Or, I mean, that would be incredible, but that only happens to like 1% of the people. Or that would be great, but blah, blah, blah. And I just feel like, think of how often you hear those things or how often you heard them out as a child. And so you assumed that they were true. Not true, not true, not true, not true. Nobody else knows anything about you, what's meant for you. Nobody can write your story but you. And the cool thing is when we recognize we don't have to believe what we've believed in the past. And we don't have to believe what the people who we've trusted in the past are saying to us. Like we get to choose what we believe. And because we believe it, it is true. Guess what? Because I believe that I live a charmed life and that only good comes to me and that every interaction is taking me closer and closer and closer to the life that I've imagined. That's what's happening in my life.
Yes. And I was just inside of B School listening to a bonus that Marie had put in there, and which I kind of got for free, by the way. So that's another story. But yes, charmed life does exist. And Marie had this thing of how she got from 6 figures to 7 figures in her business, and I watched it. And one of the things was she stopped trying to get on Oprah. And this was obviously before she got on Oprah. But she was saying how she was striving for the bigness, like Carrie was saying, putting her attention on what wasn't happening. And so she realized that's not working. I need to be where I am right now and dive into where I am right now, make the most of where I am right now. And then, of course, eventually she did get on Oprah. But relieve that tension from yourself. The story that I still get sometimes, I get 2 things of I'll say I'm doing something big and it's like, oh, it's about time, which I interpret as, oh, people think I'm going too slow in my life, which sucks. But also, what are you going to do about that? Right? Or I'll say like, this is very common too. I just made an online store. It's not even live yet. Oh, how much did you make from that? It's like, yep, okay, you understand how all this works. So why don't you determine what my life looks like? And that's what you just let it roll off. Breathe it out. Go meditate if you need to. Take a walk. Do whatever you can to get back in here, because you're the only one that knows what's right for you. You are the only one that can live your life. You're the only one that can live your life. It doesn't matter how good your life might look to other people. I hear all the time, I should be happy. I have blah, blah, blah. People would want this, whether it's a job or you get to stay home or it's something's paid for or whatever it is. I should be happy. No, you have your own life for a reason. Everyone else has their own life for a reason. You get to decide what makes you happy in your life, and you get to have that.
Yes. And you were saying something about you are the only one who can live your life, and you're also the only one who can love your life. So start loving your life now, right here in this moment. Like, be satisfied. Don't settle. Find satisfaction. Like, find that feeling. Look for moments in your life to find satisfaction and appreciation and love. Not because you should, not because like I remember when I got to the place, I was like early 30s, and I felt like I should be really grateful because I have the life I thought I always wanted. But guess what? It didn't feel the way that I thought it would feel. And so, right? So there had to be it took a long time to find satisfaction in the now without settling, right? I think that's like, it's kind of a slippery, it's a funny thing to wrap your head around, this idea that you can be like satisfied and happy and relaxed and joyful and know that more is coming. Know that like by finding satisfaction, I'm not settling. And in the doing of that, that is what opened the door. That is what changed my past to my future. Because guess what? Until that point, I was living the story of my past, of my parents' past, of my, right? There had to be this moment where I was on this loop. There had to be this moment where I was like, it was this feeling, I should be happy, but this doesn't feel like what I want my life to feel like. What does that feel like? And then any moment in my life that felt like that, that was a moment to be satisfied. That was a moment to relax and be open and be grateful. I feel like I'm talking a lot about how amazing my life is right now. So one, yay me. And two, honestly, if I can be sitting here having this conversation about how amazing my life is, each and every one of you can, because I promise you, this is not where Carrie started at all.
Yeah. Well, I think it's just, to be on the same train. Everyone's always called me their lucky charm and, oh, Rachel's lucky, come give me your luck. Like it's bosses, boyfriends, parents, you know what I mean? Like, and it's what you're describing when your life changes, you started focusing on the positive. So it's a given. There's going to be stuff in your life, regardless of where you're at success wise, that probably isn't going to be a total representation of you. There's going to be stuff you always want to change because we're always evolving, right? And, our physical life can be a little lagging behind where we are vibrationally. So we can have a new epiphany, know what we want, and still have something we don't want in our life. But if we focus on what we don't want, we glue ourselves to it, which is like what you were talking about earlier with the whole job situation. If you don't like that and you focus on it, you can't look at anything else. But when you decide, I can have moments of satisfaction, even if they're not the dominant thing in my life, if I focus there, more satisfaction will flow in. So, how do we get to that amazing future? How do we let those new opportunities in? We appreciate what is already here, even if it's just the tiniest kernel, and that will grow. And that will put you in a position to know when opportunity is coming to you, to respond positively to it. And we're going to get a lot more into this at the Aligned Up level, September 1, 2, and 3. I'm going to invite you guys all this weekend. So keep your eyes on your inbox, because this is what we talk about. It's the actual nitty gritty, living this day to day. How does your life change? And boy, do people's lives change when they go through it. I'm so excited. just to be in that space for 3 days to talk about it, because it does a lot. But anyway, I think we're wrapping up here. I just want to mention Corinne is saying, yes, just people embracing fearful thinking when they are so focused on your level of success. So just keep your eyes on your own paper. It's great when people have encouragement for you, but don't rely on that in order to move forward. Rely on your own self. That'll always get you there.
Yes. You're enough.
Yes, you are enough.
That's it. I'm getting little ding, ding, dings on my phone. So,
We're going to let Carrie go. Thank you guys so much for being here and talking with us. I love these conversations. They're so good. And if you want 3 days of this kind of energy, then sign up for the Aligned Up level when it comes out, and we will see you in there. So thanks, everybody. Thank you so much for coming. Zach, Guillaume, Corinne, for commenting. And we'll see you guys next week. Bye.
Bye, guys. Thanks for being here.